So we have some announcements coming up. And I believe, Jim, where are you? You wanted to say something? Come here. And I have the mic for you.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. I asked Gabi if I could come up and use the mic because I think I have a story for you. Take a couple minutes. It's so wonderful that I want to make sure everybody could hear it, and also the people at home watching from home. On October 7th, I was sitting in the coffee shop across the street from where I live reading the Bee, and in the first section, I ran across a full-page article, and I about fell off my chair. I was so happy. I'm sharing this story with everybody I meet, run into, and this will be one of the last chances to do this with you for a long time. In the 1950s, my parents had some very dear friends in Sacramento, the Rice family, Charles and Roberta, and they would visit constantly, and they had a son in 1952, Charles, although we called him Charlie. And when my parents were visiting with their friends, Anita, my sister, would play with little Charlie. I was 7 years older than Charlie, Anita was 4 years older than Charlie, but he was still our playmate. Charlie went on to UC Davis and got a degree in zoology only because he loves science, he loves cellular biology, and zoology was the only degree he could get based on all of his units. He wasn't worried about a degree, he just wanted to take classes. He then spent a year in South America and Central America roaming around trying to decide what he wanted to do with his life. Came back to California and got accepted at California Institute of Technology, which is the West Coast MIT, and got a PhD there in 1979. And starting in 2001, he was a professor at Rockefeller University in New York City. And little Charlie is the head of a team at Rockefeller University. And this year, 2020, he and his team discovered a cure for hepatitis C. Prior to Charlie's research, it was a fatal disease unless you could somehow get a liver transplant. He also is the only graduate of UC Davis who received the Nobel Prize of any subject. His Nobel Prize was in, and I'm starting to cry, excuse me, the Nobel Prize was in medicine and physiology. And if you forget the name Rice, you can look it up on the internet. You can look up his bio in Rockefeller University. You can look up Nobel Prize 2000 and find him there, I'm sure. Now, little Charlie, my playmate, literally saved millions of lives, according to the Bee article. Now, I hope Gabi doesn't get mad at me, but can you imagine Charlie winging his way up to heaven, which we all hopefully will do? St. Peter asked him, well, Charlie, Mr. Rice, what did you do in life? And he says, well, I discovered a cure for hepatitis C, and I saved millions of lives. And St. Peter says, very well, Mr. Rice, come on right in. Welcome to heaven. And in all fairness to the system, he went with two other professors, one from Canada and one from Europe, I think, England. And you'll read that if you take the time to look at it. Now, one last thing. The article in the Bee of the 7th of October said that Charlie and his team were working on two other things, or one other thing in particular, a cure for hepatitis B. And from what I read, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes up with that too. And the article also said, based on his research, all the research required to come up with a cure for hepatitis C and possibly B, he very well may be the discoverer of a cure for the current virus that we're experiencing. So if he does, remember that you first heard it here at your church. And I've been reading about this for the last 6 months, but I had no idea it involved Charlie. But it didn't say in the Bee article, but I will tell you. It's a regimen of pills for 6 to 8 weeks, one pill or more, I'm not sure. And it is will totally eradicate hepatitis C. And I thank you very much for listening.
Wow. Isn't that an amazing example how God uses ordinary people, people that we maybe grew up with, and use them to accomplish God's purpose in the world and bring healing and wholeness? Thank you, Jim, for sharing this. That's amazing.